there. Today we're talking about, can hormonal imbalance cause fibroids? I'm Dr. Perkins, a board-certified OBGYN, and I'm excited to share some information and tidbits with you today. So come on in. In this video, we'll talk about what are fibroids and what types exist. We'll talk about hormonal imbalances and how that may impact the likelihood of developing fibroids. And we'll talk about estrogen dominance, what that means, and what you can do about it. If you hang around till the end, I'll be sure to give you a free gift for listening today. All right, so let's talk about fibroids. So what are they? Fibroids are myomas or leiomyoma medically. That means that we have a growth that is often considered to be non-cancerous. That's 99% of the time. And these growths occur and develop inside of our uterus. So if we were to take a look at a snapshot of our pelvis, this is the uterus here. And inside of this uterus, or on top of the uterus, you may grow a mass, which is like a hard ball, literally, inside of it. So I'll show you what that may look like. I'm going to get a small fibroid here. This is my version of a fibroid. And so this, or larger, or even smaller, can develop anywhere in and around, on top, behind, anywhere inside of the uterus. Fibroids are not developing anywhere else in our bodies. Like you won't find them in your arms or in your lungs or in your feet. And you'll never see a male with a fibroid. Fibroids are strictly masses that develop inside of your uterus. Fibroids love hormones. They love hormones. They have receptors on the inside that literally just go around searching for hormones in your system, specifically the estrogens and the progesterones that naturally are a part of who you are as a female. Ever since you went through puberty and all the way until menopause, you are releasing estrogens and progesterones in your system. And these fibroids develop and love all of it. Depending on where they are inside of your uterus may lead to you having symptoms like having irregular periods, heavy bleeding, you may have pelvic pain, you may have like bulging inside of your lower abdomen that just feels like you're constantly always bloated. There are lots of symptoms that comes with fibroids. But if you have small fibroids on top of your uterus, you may not have any symptoms at all. You may have large fibroids on top of your uterus, which this is considered to be a small one, and they'll cause you no issues whatsoever. And so depending on where they are will kind of determine what your symptoms may be. Know that fibroids often grow during your reproductive years. And as soon as you get to the point of menopause, when your hormones go down, fibroids tend to shrink in size as well. And so that's important when thinking about what to do about them or whether or not you need to intervene and treat them. We know that there are specific moments in your lifetime where you may have a lot more hormonal activity than normal. Puberty is that first introduction to hormones. Puberty is just hormonally chaotic state to the point that we say that your system is immature for about 10 years after your first period. So if you had your first period at 12 years old, between 12 and 22, you're in a hormonally imbalanced state. And then each and every pregnancy creates a more hormonally high or imbalanced state as well, all the way until menopause, where you go through another hormonal shift that causes hormonal chaos, is what I'll call it. And so with all these moments in time, what happens is that your body may develop and start the rise of fibroids. Now, most of us don't know that we have fibroids until something allows us or brings it to our awareness. So most of us, up to 70% of females, will have fibroids at some point during those years. But unless something happens to trigger or awareness of them, we may not know that they're there. So while you may be surprised that you found out that you have fibroids, they were probably there for quite some time. And so getting an ultrasound because you had pains randomly may allow you to know about these fibroids. You may have a CAT scan because you went to the emergency room because you weren't feeling well, and then you find out that you have fibroids. You may be pregnant and you're getting an ultrasound to take a look at the growing baby or the growing fetus. And then they're just like, oh, by the way, you have a fibroid. So many scenarios may bring our awareness to having fibroids, and they may shock you, but they've been present. And so now it's just a matter of dealing with them. We know they're hormonally based. We know that our hormonal imbalances may lead to them, but what can we do about them? And what does that really mean to be hormonally imbalanced? We have over 50 hormones in our system. All of these hormones are interconnected. They rise and fall throughout our daily lives as they should. And so for them to be balanced means that when a level of a hormone needs to be 100, it's at 100, and then it goes down to 50 as it should, and then another hormone rises, and literally they work together in constant flux in a system that works to help us to have our metabolism, to all our organs to function, for us to be alive. A hormonally imbalanced state means that one of those hormones, or more than one, may be too high or too low, or they're not responding to each other the way they should. And what happens then is that you have more of a stress to your system because of this imbalance. So let's talk about one hormone specifically, like your thyroid. Your thyroid can be high or low throughout the day, but it fluctuates. If you have a thyroid disorder, you may produce way more thyroid hormones than you need, and so your system is overwhelmed. Or you may have too little hormones, and then your system again is stressed out. And so depending on how high or how low your thyroid is, if it's too low, you may have a lot of weight gain. You may be really cold all the time, and you may have a lot of fatigue and no energy. And then if your thyroid levels are high all the time, then you have too much energy and you have difficulty maintaining your weight, and you're constantly super overheated and too much heat being released, essentially because you're in a thyroid hormonally imbalanced state. And so when we go back to now the reproductive system, when we think about our estrogens and our progesterones, if your estrogens are too high over time, what happens is that anything inside of your uterus can overgrow. So for instance, if we go back to that model again, if we look on that inside layer of your uterus, this area responds to estrogens and progesterones, but primarily estrogens. If your estrogens are really high, that area grows and grows and grows and grows. And so what does that lead to? Well, when it's time for you to have a period, there's so much more tissue and growth on the inside part of your uterus that your periods are heavier, you bleed for longer, and you have more cramping as your uterus is squeezing, trying to remove all that excessive tissue from your uterus. If you're hormonally imbalanced and you have too much estrogens, this area may grow. And very similarly, fibroids, if they're there, they'll continue to grow and grow and grow. And so what things in our lives may impact our hormonal state? Well, our diet. If we have a diet that is void or doesn't have enough fiber, if you have a lot of processed foods, if you don't have enough fruits and vegetables, all the natural things that are found within the earth, within your system, then it leads to you being more hormonally imbalanced. If we're extremely stressed out, constantly stressed out, know that little stresses to your system are okay. We're prepared for that. We have our fight and flight system ready to go. However, if we're constantly overstressed every day and we don't have a break from our stresses, we have high levels of cortisol. And if we have a lot of cortisol being pumped into our system, then it throws off all of our other, especially reproductive hormones like estrogens and progesterones, which can lead to growth of fibroids. If we don't sleep well, And being an OBGYN where we don't get a lot of sleep, I know about this 100%. But have you ever noticed that if you don't sleep well, you start getting like pimples, or your skin shows it? Like someone can look at you and be like, oh my gosh, you're tired, right? Sleep is super important for balancing our hormones. Did you know that a majority of your hormones are replenished with sleep? And so it's important for you to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night so that all your organs can reset themselves. All your hormones will be able to be made and released into your system. And so if you're running on 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, or 2 or 3, a majority of the time, your hormones are going to be imbalanced. And so those are just 3 of the ways that we can be imbalanced, and they're really linked with our lifestyle. And so what do? Well, we want to make changes. We want to do the things that will help us to be more balanced. We want to sleep well. We want to decrease our stress, do yoga, meditation, mindfulness, whatever will help with that. We want to eat well. We want to institute the things in our diet that will help our hormones replenish themselves and balance themselves. And so it can be done. How do I know this? Because I was once in that kind of state myself, and was able to change my entire hormonal picture to be one that is way more balanced than it was before. And so it can be done. And so if you need help, actually, I'd love to send you a free copy of my ebook, Hormones Don't Lie. And that I dive into all of these things that we're talking about with our hormones. And once we become more balanced, we're able to change our picture and decrease the likelihood of fibroids and other conditions happening. And so click the link below and I'll send that over to you so that you can delve into all the options that you have to balance your body. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you learned a little bit of something today. Comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for being here. I'm Dr. Perkins. It's a pleasure.